Welcome to Liana's series of episodes. Today we have the pleasure to host Anna. As CEO and founder of Datalitiks, Anna leads a startup that helps businesses measure and improve their ESG efforts. She works with cross-industry companies to deliver database solutions that align with their goals and values. This purpose-driven woman stands by a simple and powerful idea: data for good. At this point, her metrics speak for herself: 1 year, €500,000, 5 people team, and growing. In this episode, Anna shares her vision of the need for Datalitiks, the opportunities led by data-driven ESG strategies, and her entrepreneurial experience in this field. Anna is one of a kind. Don't miss the chance to get inspired by this purpose-driven, passionate woman. Anna, welcome and thank you for the privilege of your time.
To you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, for being with us. And to start, I would like to talk a bit more about the purpose of Datalitiks. So tell us a bit about your trajectory, what brought you to Datalitiks.
Okay.
Please.
It's a long story. So let me go back in time. I mean, I'm a data professional. I've been over the past 10 years in the corporate world working with data. But my passion has always been economics. I'm an economist. And I studied economics because, I was super interested in topics related to sustainable development. I remember when I read my first book in economics, it was about the end of poverty. I was like, I need to study this, and I went to the idea of studying, economics and all of this because I realized that if I wanted to change the world, my ideas need to be backed up with numbers, and economics was kind of like the way to go. Then I realized at some point that, you need technology, given the amounts of data, that there are at the moment, and to come up with the numbers. So, I'm very passionate about anything that implies to create positive change. And, I have found in numbers and technology my way to drive impact. So that is what led me slowly going into the journey of creating Datalitiks. I had the opportunity, I went to the corporate world where I had the opportunity to work with data and see the transformation that technology and numbers can have in organizations. And at some point I was like, I need to do something about all of this, and I need to follow what I wanted to do initially, which was creating my way of doing positive impact. And that's when the concept of doing data for good and all of this came into action. And that's when Datalitiks, pop up, and it has been my baby for more than a year.
Let me point out that at some point of this trajectory, you got involved with the United Nations, right? I don't know,
Yes.
as a freelance or something?
Yes. That's another story I think that was a trigger, for me to start with Datalitiks. And let me tell you why. I was working in the corporate world. I was working on consultancy, and for me it was like I was seeing that technology was the end goal, and for me technology is just an enabler. And at some point I got a call from the United Nations if I wanted to work, doing freelancing. It was just small jobs, 3 months. It was very risky. But, when I was 16, when I was 18, I was dreaming, to work on the United Nations and the World Bank. So for me, it was like, even if it's just try it a little bit, I need to do it. And that brought me in contact with the numbers, with the UN agenda, the Sustainable Development Goals. And I think that that's when I found kind of like my purpose, because I started, with this thing of like, I want to do data for good. I want to do data for good, which was something I had here and I didn't know exactly what it meant. So I think that, yes, working, freelancing with the United Nations, it was like trigger a little bit, finding my purpose and, coming up with the concept of Datalitics. Yes.
Okay, so the UN was the trigger. And why did you decided to start Datalitics, especially like this? And what's your purpose with Datalitics?
So I don't know, like I've always, I like to change things. I'm someone that, like I see something, if I find a way to change it, it's like I need to do it. I love working with technology, with data and AI and stuff like this. So, and I'm very creative too. So I like to change things. And I was feeling that it was kind of like the next logical thing. I've always wanted to do my own thing, but like one thing is to want to have your company, and the other is like saying like, fuck it, I'm going to take the risk and I'm going to do it. Because it's very difficult, it's very comfortable to sit every day in your desk and at the end of the month, get paid and, don't worry about this. And for me, it was like taking that, leap of faith. It was difficult. It was difficult, but then it was when I started, like seeing that, I could achieve those things by myself, like having the chance of working at the United Nations and, like seeing what I was able to do and seeing, the things that I could possibly achieve, I was like, I need to do it. And especially because when I started working at the United Nations, for me, and that's when the trigger and the purpose comes in. For the first time, I had technology because I had learned, because I had studied business intelligence, I had been exposed to the corporate world. So I had the tools to come up with the numbers. And I was able to play with the data sets related to sustainable development goals. I could see things about like poverty, gender equality, and all of this. It was like very powerful to me because I started learning about all of these things. And I was like, I need to find a way to, like to take all of this to the real world, like push this agenda or push, like this movement of like creating impact or doing data for good. I need to bring it closer to businesses and people. And that's when it was like, this thing of data for good and all of this concept was like point of no return. I was like, I'm taking the risk. I'm doing Datalitiks. And that's when I was like, and since then.
Okay. And I mean, I know you are in that field, into that field, data for good, you know what you are doing. But you also said that it was a bit difficult. So which reality are you facing? Which challenges according to being an entrepreneur finally?
I mean, every day is a challenge.
Huge,
Every
huge question.
day. And it will depend in like it's not in one field in particular. I'm a first-time founder. I'm a first-time CEO. So all of this is new to me. So it's like the challenge like of doing the best you can every day with the knowledge you have. I mean, it's obviously, like I'm like in two worlds that are very dynamic, which is the technological world that is constantly changing. So you need to be updated all the time. And you are in the sustainability field that here in Europe, regulations change by the day. In 1 week, something can happen, and it can change the direction of your company. So I'm living in these two scenarios. And at the same time, I need to manage my company, which is a whole experience because, I mean, thanks God, I always say that I have this background in finance and economics. And I know the basics of accounting and all of this, but I still, like, this is learning all the time. And obviously, it's not only this, that now you have people and you need to manage people. And managing people, sometimes, it's an art that you need to learn. So it's full of challenges, but that is like the beauty of the startup life, that you're learning every day. And that's like, that's what I love it. Otherwise, I think that I would have closed 1 year ago.
I think that one challenge that in which you are succeeding is also how to couple philanthropy, which is always beautiful, perfect, and so on, how to couple that with reality, like market drivers, how to compete in an open market, and so on, how to merge those two worlds in order to do something that is both altruistic, which you are, right? How to do something altruistic while complying with reality limitations and complying with maybe other agents that are also in your market who may not share your ideals, right? I think that that is one challenge in which you are succeeding that is a huge one, because I know there are many NGOs or foundations that do have high standards and high ambitions, but they are not looking at rentability and they are not looking at market drivers. So they just don't produce or are a bit inefficient. And you have the other example. You have people that care very little about ideals and only look at the numbers, and they go for profit. But I think that one challenge in which you are succeeding is this one: how to have a high impact, how to be altruistic, how to be idealistic, how to change the world like a teenager would want, maybe, how to do it, having the feet on the ground. That's one
And
one challenge.
I think that I success, maybe it's like big word, but I think that the secret to to be able to say like I want to contribute to this bigger picture of the sustainable development goals, but I understand the reality that business and people face. I think that the key has been ESG. And let me tell you like why. So like at my ideation point, I was like very excited to see these sustainable development goals agenda, and being able to see the data. It was like really cool. And I was wondering like, okay, but how all of this translates into real life? Because to me it sounds like a very nice song, but I'm not
That's
seeing
it.
really action down there. And I don't know, like it was like being, I don't know, coincidence or something, but I started, going through, seeing that here in Malta, there was like a lot of movement onto the ESG. It was more talk than action initially, and I was like, okay, so business are talking in ESG terms, so it seems like something that it is resonated. Why? Obviously because they have new regulations coming in place, and I was like, that is like the way to link both things, the impact.
There you go.
I think that SDG and ESG needs to be in the same conversation and needs to be mentioned equally, because talking only businesses ESG, it's useless, because yes, it is the impact, it is the regulations and all of this, but if you don't understand the impact that you're having on the bigger picture, the ESGs, you're not grasping the whole value of the ESGs. And that is like the beauty of embarking on a sustainability journey, like creating impact, but at the same time, like generating this value around. And I think that, like offering like this full circle here between the two worlds is what allows me to go out there and say like, listen, let's let's try to change the world. It sounds very big, but let's create something positive, but be realistic, that at the end
There you
of
go.
the day a business needs to make profit, and it's not an NGO, so
There you go.
everybody has their constraints. So that is like, I think that this highly resonates with business, that they really want to walk the talk when it comes to ESG and sustainability.
Walk the talk. I like that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Anna, I want to pick on something you said earlier. You mentioned that you are like in between two fields, which are data technology and sustainability. You are in between two fields that change daily or hourly, maybe. So, I wanted to ask you, how do they combine? Because data technology is very powerful, but I think that it has evolved so quickly that other fields of the world haven't yet taken the profit out of it. So I wanted to touch this point with you. Also, because the next chapter we wanted to face is which is the context for an ESG technology. Tell us a little bit about this.
Okay, so let me explain like what I have seen. Let's forget about sustainability for a moment and let's just focus on data and technology. I think that given that things evolve very rapidly with technology, we sometimes see technology as the end goal. And as if you work in an organization, sometimes we think that throwing technology into a problem, it solves everything. And this is something that in data and the data field, it happens very frequently. They say like, the AI, data, it's going to solve it, but what do you want to solve, you know? And what happens is that the investment goes into technology sometimes without really understanding what is the problem that we're trying to solve. And in most of the cases, it's not about the technology, it's about the people that need to know about the technology. I always say when I used to, like manage data teams that, like you can have the most beautiful Ferrari in the door, but if you don't know how to drive it, it's useless. And the result of this, it's like companies keep constantly, like investing in technology, but only 25% of them, they are able to, like get the value of their data assets, let's say. So we are struggling in general terms when it comes to managing data as an asset or managing technology, to get any value out of the data. And this is something, like for me, it was like key when developing Datalitiks and this solution of, like of the ESG impact tracking. Because for me, it's like the key of all of this. It's like like now it's when I'm going to link it with the sustainability part, like organizations are facing the pressure that they need to start reporting their sustainability efforts. And they are given a bunch of requirements and metrics that they need to come up, which means like redirecting resources of the company to put people and to put technology there so they can, produce the bloody report. Most of the cases when those reports are produced by, by solutions that are very human intensive. So the result is like a very static PDF of 130 pages that, like it's very hard to finish and it doesn't invite to any impact. And it's very costly solution because it's like you have to come up with this, it's very costly. So for me, the idea of like saying like, listen, if you have the technology usually allows you to reduce the price of entry of certain solutions. And I was like, we need to use technology to allow that this organization are able to start, like produce sustainable reporting or ESG tracking, start measuring their ESG efforts in a very much smart way, that it requires less, like less human resources or whatever, and use technology. And the people who has to use the technology or the output of this focuses on the insights, not on populating data, because most of the cases, because people sometimes it's not trained or they don't have the knowledge, the full exercise goes on like coming up with the data rather than thinking like, okay, this is my report, those are my numbers, those are my insights, I need to change on this. You spend more time populating the data. So like that is the whole concept, that using technology to make more all of this, new sustainability reporting, measuring emissions, or understanding what are your ESG priorities, making it more affordable by organizations so they can afford it, because again, technology allows you to go down in price, and also approach things in a different way, not in a static way. If we really want to change things, we need to this is like when you monitor sales in organizations. You don't want to see your sales once a year in a report telling you, no, you want to see your sales every day. I'm not saying that you report emissions every day. What I'm saying is that, you need
integrating
to
it, and
so
yes. Okay, so
think
I couldn't ask for a more wise answer. And okay,
I
I
thought that I
wasn't
was
expecting this, but it was the okay. No, because that is something that I deal with as well, because I work also in a data environment. And it's exactly as you say it. Technology is most of the times understood as the end point of the process and not as a tool to achieve a higher purpose. Definitely.
Okay. Now that we understood a bit more the context for the ESG technology, I want to deep dive into the corporative motivations. So the question is, why do companies hire you?
Why would a client come and say, hey, Anna, help me, please? Why do they come?
Well, I think it's really, I would say like there are two main things or three. Obviously, most of the organizations that will reach out to us are facing the pressure of the regulations, and next year they're going to, it's happening. So they are facing the regulations, and they need to find a way to tackle this. They usually understand that technology is like game changer. So they know that we are working with technology. They understand the value of using, a more data-driven approach. So they see that we can approach things in a different way, less human capital intensive and more about like, data insights and all of these thing that I think that it makes us different. It's innovation at the end of the day. And I see that most, what they share is that there are companies that they have like a strong values that they think about like in terms of, they don't see sustainability as just like compliance. They see it like, yes, I need to do it. I want to do it in a very efficient way because I don't want to waste resources on this, or like I want to do it in a smart way. But I want to, like I understand that also data is having a data-driven approach to this, it might bring me value. And obviously, like there are companies that perhaps they have like their values and they are a little bit mature when it comes to sustainability. And they really understand that, like embedding ESG into their business, it's a way of doing new business, it's like new thing. So that's what I think that, I'm seeing from, the corporate world or like the customers that we have.
Okay. So you are advising companies based in Europe or in other continent, or
for now, yes.
For now, yes. So the according to the regulation, this is the new CSRD, the new European directive, right?
Yes.
And I mean, is it at the European level or at the national level? I'm asking because not. Yeah.
Wait, girls, let me just for the audience, can you explain a bit what is CSRD? Because there may be people in the audience who don't know. Okay, so it's corporate.
I go for it, or maybe Anna, do you want to reply or?
Yes, it's okay. I mean, I'm going to keep it like very simple. So like in next year, I mean, officially it's when they start. Companies, they need to start measuring their sustainability efforts, and this goes from the environmental part, the social, and the governance things. For example, to report on the gender gap, the emissions, or I don't know, like things related to customer privacy. So it is like a very wide of like a spectrum of things that they need to tackle. Yes.
So CESRD is the directive that
Yes, it is
encompasses
like
this.
the law, and then there is like the framework, which is like
Yes.
tells you how you need to report it, more or less, which is the ESRS.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes,
And then there is like a whole, I mean, it's
Okay.
like a lot of
yeah.
letters.
There are,
It's
I
a
mean, there are
Yes.
specific field like around biodiversity, about like affected communities. You have like several branches, and company has to comply with the new
yes,
directive.
Okay.
yes. That's how it works. So in our case, obviously, there are the focus is obviously we are in Europe and there are like the CSRD and the regulations and it's fine. But like in Malta, there is a lot of push for the adoption of ESG. I think that like although compared to other countries, when it comes to adoption, we are a little bit like behind.
Mm-hmm.
We are just starting, but the good thing about Malta is like it seems like there is this drive now for like public entities, for some companies, like for example there is the ESG Malta the alliance of companies and this, and there is a lot of drive. So like things are like moving pretty fast when it comes to this. In fact, the government has a platform that is you can report your ESG and it is very focused so SMEs report on this. And even like the government has some schemes to support the SME so they can, hire consultants, to start reporting on this and provide the results. And it is very powerful in this case because although we have the regulations, and in Europe and it's okay, but in our case, Malta is just it's an island of 500,000, people, and there are big companies, but there are, like most of the companies like are SME. So if we really want to drive the impact when it comes to ESG, yes, I mean we need to care about the big companies that they need to report on the European level, but at the same time, like we need to push for these SMEs that they start mentioning this. So that's why like there are like this local framework and there is this local particular push here in Malta.
Okay.
This seems to be, I mean, well structured in Malta, but it's not really the case in all countries in Europe, for example. And I'm asking you, isn't it challenging to find like the right metrics for the company to be reported and then monitored?
So it's never easy, but let me tell you why I think sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. Let me tell you, when I started in this with Datalitiks, I mean, I was approaching sustainable development from a different way. So I had to learn about ESG very in deep. And at that time, there wasn't the ESRS. It was like you need to do the regulation is happening. How you report, it will come at a later stage. So for me, I went and I love to learn. So I'm very, like I will go obsessed with a topic. And at that time, I was like, I need to learn a framework. So I went for the GRI
Mm-hmm.
standards, which is like common and this. And this is something that then it has been used across the ESRS, but it has, like it is used, for example, in countries that maybe are not in Europe, but they are facing, but they are reporting. So I use this and I think like this and I have adapted to this. And that helps me to approach, how shall I say, things in a not like purely European regulatory way. And I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
it helps me more. I don't know if I
Yeah,
have like answered the question or not,
it's
but
clearer. Yeah, for me, it's clearer. Maybe Sarah, do you have another
Yes,
question?
girls,
Yeah.
we have 5 minutes to half an
okay.
hour episode. So now we can go for call to action episode. So Anna, can you explain us a bit how can our audience engage with an improvement? This covers companies, regulators, users. I don't know. How can our communities engage with an improvement in the field of sustainability strategies. I mean, data use for ESG strategies.
So I think that as as I'm going to start with person, forgetting a little bit of we've talked too much about companies. As people, I think that we need to be more proactive in learning. Because I mean, it's happening, like this thing of I think that, like before there was like an inflection point for all of us. It was COVID, and we realized that we are much more connected than we thought. And what happens in one side of one part of the planet, it can have an effect on the other. And I think that, like when COVID, we got our lesson, and some people, like really changed, and they started. That's why I think that there is this awareness towards sustainability, and it's there, and I think that we shouldn't forget about this. And because that translates into climate change, that translates into social inequalities. So I think that we as people, we have the responsibility to learn, learn and don't forget about this, because I think that now it has happened 3 years, and now it's like we forget about, how world is connected, and then we keep getting, going into flights and keep consuming more. And so I think that there needs to be like some from our end to learn and to keep, like riding the wave on this. That's important. Otherwise, we're not going to make impact. And I think that, like coming like or going back to the topic of organizations, I think that, like it starts, like there needs to be a push. And yeah, I mean, I know that the regulations, it's like the kind of like the part like, oh, I need to do it for the regulations. But I think that leaders in organizations, they need to ask and say like, listen, but why I really need to do this? Why? And that ties with, we've talked a lot about purpose, with the purpose of Datalitiks. And I think that that ties with the purpose of the organization. I think that there needs to be a drive and change the way that perhaps we're doing business. That doesn't mean that business doesn't need to make money, but perhaps it's about to think and like say like, listen, I need to achieve this revenue, but I need to do it in a sustainable way. And that is aligned with the values of my company and with the purpose of my company. Because that's when, like when leaders start thinking in that way, compliance, it was like, okay, I'll do compliance, but what matters is like you're getting value out of this and you're creating an impact inside your organization and outside your organization. And I feel like it's like more, when I say call to action, it's more like call to start thinking and question, what perhaps we have been doing in, in a particular way.
This reminds me very much to Armel Conan, Melissa. Anna, we had a guest. We had a guest, Armel Conan, who also works in, well, he's also involved in sustainability and so on. And his key quote was, make business work for impact and impact work for business. So this is very aligned with your vision.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Oh wow. So time has flew very, very quickly. I don't know, Anna, if there's something else that you would like to add, or because we have reached the time, but if you want.
No, I just wanted to, like thank you for having me, and it was like it's great that you are, like having this initiative and like doing this of contacting people, giving them the opportunity to voice, to speak, and I think that it's great because that's how I think that how everybody can contribute a little bit, and it's their way of changing our world. So thank you for the initiative, and thank you for having me here.
I have to tell you, Anna, that we do. I'm sorry, Melissa. We do feel grateful as well, because when I connected with you, I was like, wow, this woman that just connected. Like, really? Wow, because, okay, yes, we feel the same.
Thank you. It's a
And I
pleasure.
also wanted to say that I reflect on what you say about like the importance of train ourselves, because when I get to Spain, I wasn't sorting really well the Dutch. How do you say that, Sarah?
Dutch, I don't know.
Dutch
Dutch, it's the
sort
German language.
sorting, recycling.
Recycling.
Yeah, okay.
I have to
Yeah,
tell,
I didn't really
Melissa
know how to
landed
do
in
it.
Spain in the same flat as me, and she learned how to recycle. I have to tell you.
We don't have it in Africa, actually. We just throw everything away, maybe plastic a bit and organic ones, but it's not way more advanced like it was in Spain. So Sarah taught that to me. And also, I had to train myself doing climate fresk to understand that action that I was taking in Paris had an impact on my parents in Togo. So sometimes we don't really understand that we are
In a system.
in a world, yeah,
Yes.
in a system, and we have to train to sensitize people to make them understand that it's not fair for other people to support what we are doing on another part. So I
Hmm.
think this really drives me, and it's important that you said it into the call to action, because I know it calls me also. And this is
Okay.
my motto, my fight here, because we are not advanced, and people are, they don't really care because they don't see how important it is. So as I had the opportunity to go out and to learn that, I think it's important for Africans also to entirely understand that it's super crucial, and that they take initiative right now to make things move before we get to a no return point.
Yes. 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 I agree with you.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, girls. So this is the end of the episode. Thank you very much both for
Mm,
coming. I hope the audience
yes,
enjoys this, which I am sure it will. And see you soon.
Thank you.
yes.